dinner, they meet over dinner, a positive outcome that we're being told by sources here in Pakistan.
Al Jazeera's Osama bin Javed reporting live from Islamabad. Our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett is also in the Pakistani capital. Kimberly, give us a sense of the tone that the US delegation led by Vice President J.D. Vance were trying to set going into these talks.
And trying is the key word, as Osama's guest a moment ago sort of alluded to. The fact that these two groups of negotiators are now in the same room is significant, given the fact that initially they started in separate rooms with the Pakistanis acting as intermediaries. Now, the reason that this is significant is because that tone has shifted from the tone that we saw from the U.S. president even as recently as a few hours ago. The U.S. president for days has continued his bombastic nature, whether it is on social media or in front of the television cameras, where he has taunted Iran, saying that it has no cards, that he's loading up his ships, rearming them, and if these talks fail, that he will deploy them at a moment's notice. Well, this has certainly created a level of anxiety that the Vice President, J.D. Vance, then had to tamp down as he walked into the Islamabad Serena Hotel. So we know that the U.S. Vice President was very relaxed when he showed up, and it seems that others responded to him in the same way as a result. But again, the challenge is maintaining that, even as the U.S. president back in Washington continues to post on social media, warning Iran that it is losing and losing big, among other things that he has posted in recent hours.
Kimberly, I'll be back with you in just a moment. Let's go live to Iran. Ali Hashim is in the capital, Tehran. Help us understand, Ali, what's being said there in Tehran on what these talks can actually achieve. Is there a delegation there, including the speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf? I mean, is that delegation authorized to move on the red lines like the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, Adrian, when it comes to the delegation is representing all the layers of the Iranian institutions, from the Speaker of the Parliament, who is well connected to the leader and the IRGC in a very strong way. Also the Supreme National Security Council, the Foreign Ministry. So everyone, almost everyone is there. And given that fact, the issue here isn't about red lines as much as it's what are the possibilities that both sides can bridge the gaps. There are huge gaps between the two sides, and we're hearing that today will be the only day of negotiations. However, there have been some leaks that there is a possibility for another day extension, but given the fact there are loads of files to be studied and loads of decisions to be taken, there's a lot of skepticism whether this is going to happen or not. Waiting to see, everyone here in Tehran is waiting to see, because this is not about ceasefire only. It's about the 47 years of hostility between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. And today, given the fact that the two most senior officials in the history of the two countries are meeting. You know, we've seen before the foreign ministers meeting, John Kerry and Mohammad Jawad Zarif, or other officials. But this time it's different. This time people on the top, on the very top, are meeting. So how will they be able to get to bridge what everyone failed to bridge in the past?
Al Jazeera's Ali Hashim reporting live from Tehran. Let's go back to Kimberly in Islamabad. Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are both at these talks. They are also the men who were at the table in Geneva just 48 hours before the February strikes. How's that delegation managing the intense Iranian distrust in them?
Well, we've just learned how the White House is handling it. A senior U.S. administration official has told Al Jazeera, as well as a number of other outlets, that what the White House is doing is not just having the delegation present, but also there are, in their words, a body of subject matter experts that are present in Islamabad, as well as additional experts that are supporting from Washington. So while there is a relatively small team here in Islamabad, there is an extensive cast of characters that is supporting, not just from the Serena Hotel, but also back in Washington. That means that they can make these very substantive decisions and, as a result, move these negotiations along. There had been a lot of skepticism going into this that one day of talks was not going to be able to bridge the gaps between a 15-point plan and a 10-point plan, or the level of distrust, or even just the large number of subject areas. But the United States president was very clear. He's really looking for two things right out of the gate, and that is to see the Strait of Hormuz opened and the free flow of oil tanker traffic through there, and also that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. So it is with that in mind that the U.S. president has not just sent this delegation, but also subject matter experts to support.
Al Jazeera's White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett reporting live there from Islamabad. Kimberly, many thanks indeed. Iranian and U.S. conditions for ending the war appear to show some major differences. Washington's list hasn't been published, but U.S. media leaks suggest that it includes a 30-day ceasefire, while Iran is calling for a complete halt to strikes and guarantees against future attacks. The U.S. wants 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities to be dismantled, Tehran to never develop a nuclear weapon, and to stop the enrichment of uranium. Tehran rules out any restrictions on its enrichment program. The reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is a key U.S. demand. Iran wants guarantees that it gets sovereignty over the waterway. The U.S. also wants Iran to end its support for regional non-state allies such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. But Iran is demanding the U.S. and Israel stop the war on all fronts, including fighting its regional proxies. Joining me now in the studio, Sultan Barakat, who's a professor of public policy with Hamad bin Khalifa University. Also with us, Dania Thafa, who is the executive director of the Gulf International Forum, a think tank based in Washington, D.C. And Ijaz Haider is a defense and national security analyst. He's joining us from Lahore in Pakistan. Welcome to you all. Professor, let's start with you. I'm struck by the fact that we're hearing a lot of trust-building measures around these talks. There's talk of economic incentives on freezing Iranian assets, the lifting of sanctions, then talking about demanding that the Strait of Hormuz is opened. Until Kimberly mentioned nuclear and dismantling Iran's nuclear program and uranium enrichment, I hadn't heard anything about it.
Well, in a sense, there is no nuclear program to produce a bomb. And this is something that the Iranians have been saying for a long time. The Atomic Energy Agency has been saying. The American intelligence, Mr. Kent, who resigned as director of the counter-terrorism, said exactly the same. So you could look at this and say, well, there's a win for Trump already. There is no nuclear bomb program. Now, there's a nuclear energy program, and there are negotiations around that. I suspect the Iranians will not accept to compromise to the level where they have to import the capsules needed to power the plants in the future. They must be able to do their own enrichment to a certain level, because that's the whole idea of having a program, is to create energy independence from outside, particularly when you're such a large oil and gas exporter. The idea, I think, in their own mind, is to be able to export as much as possible of their oil and gas, to turn that into dollars, and they want to take their own consumption of that grid, if you like, and use the nuclear. It's very unlikely that they will compromise below that. Anything else is probably up there for negotiations, but at this stage, it's clear that there is no nuclear weapon program, and if there was any, with the attacks back in June and then the 40 days war, it has been degraded to a level that would be practically impossible to reestablish.
Dania, for the first time since 1979, senior officials from both the US and Iran are sitting in the same room and talking, regardless of what's actually going on between them right now. How diplomatically significant is that moment itself after decades of hostility?
Get the best deals on hotels with online-reservations.com. Enter your destination, select your dates, and book the best deal. Hurry and book now for great deals at online-reservations.com.
The global AI market is projected to reach $1.770 trillion by 2032. Do you have the skills needed to seize this opportunity? Build a rewarding career in AI with the postgraduate program in AI and machine learning, business applications. Take the first step towards AI mastery. Apply now.
Optimistic.
Ijaz, President Trump posted earlier on Saturday that the US is actively clearing the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, militarily, what does that mean? And why now? I mean, does that risk the danger of immediate escalation?
Well, if he could clear the Strait of Hormuz, we would not be seeing this confab in Islamabad, frankly. So militarily, and he's been asking his allies to come and help him. And he's been really cut up with them, especially the NATO allies, because he realizes that operationally speaking, this is something that cannot be done or can only be done at a very high cost. So, I mean, it's one of those things that he says. For instance, this entire thing about destroying the civilization and then, of course, doing an about face and coming round to talking. It's just President Trump.
Professor, President Trump reportedly urged Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel to dial back on his military action on Lebanon, and yet Israel says it's not going to do that at all before talks with the Lebanese government that are scheduled for next week. What does that tell us about Washington's actual influence over Israel? And should some sort of deal come out of Islamabad between the US and Iran, but Israel continues its fight with both Hezbollah and Iran, what does that mean for the Gulf region?
Well, look, since the 7th of October, we've learned a lot about Israel's influence on Washington, both Democrats and Republicans. And I think the instigation of this particular battle between the United States and Iran, and the way they managed to drag Trump against all advice that was given to him, and in fact against his own feelings, demonstrate that there is incredible influence from Israel on Washington. Now is the time for Washington to show that when things really matter for the interest of the American public, they do have influence on Israel. And it's incredibly important that they demonstrate this, because the war was three sides. It wasn't just the United States and Iran. It's the United States, Iran, and Israel. So they are in Islamabad, practically speaking, on behalf of the two states. And if they're not doing so, then they shouldn't be there, because it was the Israelis who instigated this war. So now it can't be emphasized more that they need to show that they are in control. They can hold the Israelis back. They can starting from the genocide in Gaza, the expansionist agenda of Israel, what they're doing in the West Bank. All of these issues are important to countries in the region, and they are the issues that have given Iran the sympathy, particularly in the Arab Street, for what they're doing against Israel. So the Americans have got to deal with all this, withdraw these excuses away from their areas if they are to reach a proper settlement with them that is long-lasting. Anything short of that, I think, we'll just see another war in the days of
Daniel, Gulf states, of course, want de-escalation. Do they worry that events are outside, particularly on the diplomatic process? Because what say do they have in
Sasa wewe unaweza kuagiza gari bora na ulipenalo kupitia FPT Japan. Tembelea tovuti yetu ya www.fbtjapan.com na hapo utapata ukipendacho zaidi.
Right now, they are actually Saudi Arabia and Qatar are believed to be there informally. They're not at the negotiation table between Iran and the U.S., but they are actually there, and I think they will have a role in trying to push forward the GCC interests at the negotiation in some form, although that's unclear. And also, I would like to raise the concern that Israel is not here, and I think Israel should be at the negotiation table because Israel is the one that pushed for this war, and then they should be the one to be tangibly held responsible for the conditions out of this negotiation.
I wish I had time to talk to you both more about that. I've got to throw a question back into Ijaz here. Given everything that's happened in recent weeks and the escalation that Ijaz here, given everything that's happened in recent weeks and the escalation that
and the third is that the glass is half empty and Pakistan, which obviously glass is half full, wants the war to end. Pakistan, which obviously also for its own self-interest, wants the war to end, to seize the right also for its own self-interest, and to create some kind of recognition, to seize the right point. This is now create some kind of recognition, a hurting state. This is now, you know, there were also working the forms with Pakistan was in President Trump with Iran, and Pakistan was also working the forms with President Trump bluster, and on many an occasion, despite the United States on this many an occasion, this aggression against Iran, the United States was rising for the United States. This aggression against Iran, multiple countries were rising for the United States, so yes, and also its allies, and Trump wanted to get out of this Asia, but he needed to get something on the basis of which he could do. He needed, and I think get something on the basis of which was created for Pakistan. That is where to try and space bring the two sides together. So for Pakistan to try and bring the two sides together. So that's important. Not just symbolically, but in some ways, and I think it's very also that these not just symbolically, but because the last time there were direct also that these meetings were between James Roberts, because the last time there were direct and continuous meetings were between James Roberts, who was the U.S. Special Envoy for Deputy Prime Minister Jawad Zarif, who met formally and informally. Also, this was during the Deputy Prime Minister Jawad Zarif, and even formally and JCPOA. Also, this was during the there were not direct negotiations between the Iranian negotiators and the Americans. So I think that's the between the Iranian negotiators and the Americans. So I think that's very important. I think the structural reasons for why this war is concerned, I think the structural reasons for why this war process actually have still not been addressed. And I think that is where that the bridging proposal that Pakistan presented, the Americans see that which is essentially the 10 points that Iran presented the Americans, and where there was a which is essentially the 10 points that the US 15 points and the Pakistani 10 points. The Pakistan kind of reworked the language, 15 points and presented 10 points. The American Pakistan kind of reworked the language and presented the Americans, and that's how it came about.
Sorry to interrupt you there. We have to end it. We're out of time. Ijaz Haider, Dania Fafa. Israeli airstrikes have continued across southern Lebanon, with at least 10 people reported killed. Israeli airstrikes have continued across southern Lebanon, with at least 10 people reported killed. Residential areas in the Nabatea district were hit as attacks spread across several towns. Residential areas in the Nabatea district were hit as attacks spread across several towns. Strikes come as Israeli and Lebanese envoys are expected to meet in Washington. Let's go live to Tyre in southern Lebanon of Al Jazeera. Let's go live to Tyre in southern Lebanon where Al Jazeera's Hito is there. What's the latest where you are, Veda?
Well, the military operations continue here in southern Lebanon. These military operations continue here in southern Lebanon. The Israeli military has carried out strikes, as you mentioned. At least 10 people killed in the strikes today. Killed in these strikes. Two of the people who were killed in the strikes in Nabatea were actually defense member here in the southwest front. We've seen Lebanese civil defense member carry out demolitions. One of the largest we've seen Israeli military carry out demolitions, one of the largest organized demolitions. And these are demolitions that the Israeli troops are carrying out in border towns and villages to destroy. Israeli troops are carrying out in border towns and villages to destroy infrastructure possible for people to return to their homes, even if making it the Israeli troops somehow to return to their homes, even territory. The Israeli troops somehow made an exit rounds Lebanese territory. We also saw some incendiary controlled demolition took place, and incendiary rounds are banned internationally. Controlled demolition targets or military facing civilian targets internationally areas. The place where we saw military facing civilian targets and forest areas. The place where very near a civilian neighborhood. The situation remains quite tense. Very near a civilian neighborhood. The situation remains quite tense. Hezbollah launched the sounds of volleys flying above rockets towards Israeli troops over the last hour and a half or so. Rockets towards Israeli troops here over the last Lebanon, and no ceasefire. So things remain seen here in southern Lebanon, and no ceasefire to be seen here yet.
Thanks indeed. Demonstrators gathered in southern Lebanon. Thanks indeed. Demonstrators gathered in Beirut, Lebanese capital, to protest against this particular talks with Israel. What Hezbollah says it's against this particular
Others for other political flags for Hezbollah. Some people here have been cheering. Others for other political Prime Minister Nawaf Salam. Some people here have been cheering Hezbollah to disarm Prime Minister Nawaf Salam. Called for Hezbollah to disarm the government for Beirut, agreeing to engage. There's a lot of discontent here with government talks with Israel, agreeing to engage. Many people feel that the government is in a very weak position to do this. Many people feel that Israel must not only ceasefire but withdraw. Hezbollah's position is that Israel must not only ceasefire but withdraw from southern Lebanon. Malcolm Al Jazeera, Beirut, Lebanon.
Live to the occupied West Bank.
Al Jazeera, Beirut
is near Ramallah and is following the Israeli West Bank. Israel refusing to negotiate with Hezbollah. The Israeli government these negotiations, though, Israel refusing to negotiate with Hezbollah. Tuesday, did these negotiations, though, with the Lebanese government on Tuesday, at least look promising?
Well, at this point, Adrian, it's not really clear whether they will be negotiations or more like it's not really clear whether they will be negotiations or more like a preparatory meeting to this. Because first of all, both sides, the Israeli Prime Minister are coming to this to announce the Israeli Prime Minister was pushed to announce accepting the U.S. administration. He has invitation for direct talks by the U.S. administration. The Lebanese government is beleaguered politically and financially. The Lebanese government call for negotiations are very controversial. As we saw there, its measure in its call for negotiations are very controversial. As we saw there, including Lebanon in the ceasefire, and yet it felt losing control over the fate Lebanon in the ceasefire. So those two over the fate of the country. So those two sides are going to be coming to the State Department at a mid-level hostilities, suspending kind of Israeli bombardment, and then they would have to talk about all the things they don't want to talk about. Israel needs to withdraw, and then they would have to talk about all the things they don't want to talk about. Israel needs to withdraw and disoccupation and invasion of Lebanese territory. Stop talking about annexing 10% talk about this Lebanon and setting up illegal settlements there. You know, the government is in such a weak state. They're talking about that the government is in sectarian relations. They're talking about that might strain sectarian relations to a breaking point.
This is playing out how for Prime Minister Netanyahu. What's going on at the moment domestically, this is playing out for Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Well, it's certainly not what he had been hoping, Adrian. Usually, well, it's certainly not what he had been Israeli political wisdom, Adrian. An Israeli prime minister who goes victory, of course, an Israeli prime minister who thinks to back that up with victory gets a boost in the polls. Things to back that up with numbers get plummeted. A boost in the main rival, his main competition is not from the center or the left. Rival, his main competition is not from the center or basically competing over the same right, which is more dangerous for the former prime minister competing over the same peers according to the polls. If Israelis were to election appears according to the polls, if he and his Israelis party ticket elections tomorrow, more seats in the Knesset,